Voices from Jerusalem presents Is There a God and What's the Difference? By Rabbi Motty Berger, adapted and produced for audio by the JHAH Media Center in Jerusalem. 3,800 years ago, one lone man stood up against an overwhelmingly polytheistic world and proclaimed the existence of one omnipotent God. That man, Abraham, became the father of the Jewish people. The truth is, Abraham was neither the first nor the only individual to recognize that there was one God. But, as Rabbi Motty Berger, world-renowned lecturer from JHAH Jerusalem, demonstrates with his unique clarity, Abraham was the only one to take this belief, stake his life on it, and transform it into a quest that would change the world.
What do we mean when we use the term God? The Creator. Reality. The highest spiritual power. Who's considered the father of the Jewish people? Abraham. Why? What is different about Abraham? What did he discover? That there was one God. That raises a question, however. That in the Torah, it tells us about many other people before Abraham who knew about one God. There was Adam, there was Noah, there was Shem, JHAH, Hanoch. The Torah tells us there are people before Abraham who knew there was one God. What we should understand is Abraham didn't just know there was one God. He drew the logical conclusions about the idea there was one God. The logical ramifications. What does it mean there's one God? Abraham looked around the world. The stories tell us that Abraham looked around the world and said, you can't have such order, such structure, unless there was someone who created it. That you can tell when there's order that somebody did it. It didn't just happen. If you see a stack of 20 books on the table here, and they're ordered very neatly, the biggest book on the bottom and smaller up. So you have two possible conclusions. Somebody walked by and dropped a load of books off his shoulders and it happened to fall that way. Or somebody set it up. We know we can tell the difference between order and chaos. Things don't just happen. It's true in our science. It's true in our justice system. How do you tell a person is innocent or guilty of a crime? Look at the evidence. Well, maybe those things just happen randomly. There are fingerprints and fibers. They just happen. Of course, we know things don't just happen. They happen because of a cause. Every effect has a cause. Abraham looks around the world and says, it couldn't have just happened by itself. There had to be something that caused the universe. And so he knew there was one God. But do you know what the name of the society was that Abraham lived in? The name of the area. Mesopotamia. What did the Mesopotamians answer? If you were Abraham and said, it couldn't have happened by itself, there had to be someone that put it all together, what would they have answered? No, we're all atheists. What would they say? So sure, there are many gods. Abraham, of course it didn't happen by itself. He had the rain god and the wind god and the stone god and the brick god, and the Mesopotamians didn't tell Abraham, no, it just happened by itself. What Abraham is saying is this, look, everything that exists in the physical world has certain limits. Right? Something that's physical, an atomic particle, has a beginning and an end to it. And a lot of atomic particles which form matter, big pieces of matter or small pieces of matter, everything that's physical is finite. It has limits. And further intuiting the idea which we now take for granted that time and space are all just relative dimensions of the same whole. Now, this time is not separate from space. It's just another dimension. He said things that have limits have beginnings and ends in space, have beginnings and ends in time. If I look at you and I say, I know that you were born at a certain point in time. That is to say, before a certain point in time, you didn't exist. And I know things that don't exist can't create themselves. Therefore, I know you have parents. It's not that I have faith that you have parents. I know it. I've never met them. That's not relevant. I know there had to be somebody there that created you. It wasn't a parent. It was in vitro fertilization. Something had to be there beforehand, because at the point you didn't exist, something had to cause you to exist. And since your parents are physical, finite, limited, something had to cause them. Hence, I know, therefore, that if anything physical and finite exists, there has to be, at the beginning of the process, something which was not physical, not finite, and therefore did not have any beginning in time, which had to exist in order for anything physical and finite to exist. It's a rather simple construct. Everything that's physical and finite had to have something that was there before it to create it. And if it was physical and finite, it needed something else. Hence, at the beginning of the process, there had to be something there which had no beginning. That is to say, if I could somehow imagine that at the point before anything physical came to existence, there was nothing there, then nothing could exist now. Because from nothing, nothing comes. Hence, at the beginning of the process has to be that which didn't have anything before it. The beginning of all of it is something which is outside of time and space. And when he creates that which is physical, what he's really doing is creating not only matter, but space and time. Space and time come into existence with the creation of matter. Again, in 20th century terms, it's easier to understand because the concept of the Big Bang, something had to cause the existence of matter and the laws that control matter. But Abraham conceives of this intuitionally, so to speak, that there had to be something at the beginning. Now, his Mesopotamian neighbors, what would they say to him? Well, there were many gods. Right? There's the rain god and the wind god. So Abraham comes along, we can posit the conversation this way. Abraham says to the Mesopotamian, look, you got a rain god, right? Is your rain god of finite existence or infinite? Now, the one thing you have to say about polytheistic civilizations is that they weren't all dumb. No polytheistic civilization said there are many gods, one of whom is infinite, and all the rest are finite. Infinite means all-encompassing, all-controlling. If one being is infinite, the other ones aren't gods at all. You can't have two infinite gods, because if one has infinite control, the other one doesn't have any. So Abraham says to them, look, our rain god, is it of infinite control or finite? If it's finite, then there was a point in time in which it was given its power, before which it didn't exist. What created the rain god? Find out what created the rain god and worship it. But if what created the rain god was finite, then there's a point in time it didn't exist. Find out what created it and worship it.